Hello, and welcome into another episode of the NFL Roundup Podcast. My name's Shane Stanley, and I'm joined by my co-host, John Hepso. So we're in episode 5 this week, and we're going to recap the championship weekend, and then we're going to get into some pretty big news story today. Tom Brady retired, so we're going to get into a bit of that. Then we're going to get into some slight off-season topics that we want to touch on to get into where it's not Super Bowl week. And then we'll give a pretty vague preview of the Super Bowl, and we'll get more into it next week. But more of the same this weekend. Hey, John, with some close games after last weekend?
The last 2 weekends. I said it last week, maybe some of the best football I've ever watched, and this weekend didn't disappoint
It just
either.
picked up right where it left off.
Yeah, well, especially with the Cincinnati game, with the walk-off, right?
Yeah, well, this is 6 games now, and 5 of them were decided by a field goal, and the other one was Chiefs versus Bills.
Yeah.
One of the best games
game
ever. So, yeah, it's been a pretty good 2 weeks of football, and we're down to 2.
Yeah, should be good.
Yeah.
Now, like Shane said, we're not going to really get into it too much. We'll save next week for 75% talking about the Super Bowl. Make our picks.
We'll get
analysis.
into a vague, very wide range of what is going on with the two teams, but we'll get more into in-depth analysis and a score pick next week.
Yeah. So, without further ado, let's hop right into the Cincinnati-Kansas City game.
Finally, boy, again, I couldn't have been more wrong about this. We picked it right back
you looked
up.
right. You looked right in the first half.
Tale of two halves again. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been a lot of games this playoffs now that the first half has been completely these two teams too, because it was 11 points last time and history repeats.
Man, unreal. But like you say, tale of two halves. I say tale of two Mahomes.
Oh, absolutely.
I read a stat. It was Mahomes is passer rating 148 in the first half.
It was a 96,
Near perfect.
96 QBR.
Near perfect, right?
Crazy.
Second half, goose egg, 0. He had 0 passer rating. 0.
Wow.
How unbelievable is that? I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Such a high to such a crashing
I think
low.
he had like a below 50% completion percentage. He had like 70 yards and 2 picks between halftime and the game-winning kick. So, yeah, no, it was 2 completely different teams. I mean, I guess if nothing else, I've got to give Cincinnati their due, and their defense is legit. I think it's safe to say now. This is twice that they've held Kansas City to 3 points in the second half.
Yeah, unbelievable. Now, when I saw the very first drive, Tyreek Hill, touchdown, they showed a stat. It was when Tyreek Hill scores a touchdown, the Chiefs are like 20-0. They've never lost a game.
Yeah.
And then I saw Travis Kelce get a touchdown as well, and I said, oh, well, Jesus, if this is happening, well, Bengals don't have much of a shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's really been their MO for this whole playoffs is like their big 3, and those are the big 3, Hill, Kelce, and obviously the quarterback. So if those 3 are going, I mean, they're pretty much unstoppable. In every playoff game, they've all had a touchdown between the 3 of them. So, I mean, that's mind-boggling to even think of, but here we are. And up to that point, they were unstoppable, and then those guys get shut down in the second half, and we get a game.
Yeah, unreal. So, scored 21-10 at halftime. I'm sure the Chiefs were going in, well, with 9 seconds left. Let's start there.
Yeah.
9 seconds left. Second and goal. Mahomes rolls out, throws it in the dirt. Kills 4 seconds. Smart play to throw it away.
Yeah.
Andy Reid sends the field goal team onto the field.
Yeah.
Mahomes waves him out, says, I need one more shot. Throws a near lateral pass to Tyreek Hill, who's blown up on the goal line. Zeros come on the clock. They walk away with no points.
Nothing. No.
That, to me, was the turning point of the game.
Yeah, it's strange to say that a game started at the last play before the half, but it seemed that way. And like this is the thing now that we're getting into in the NFL, and these experienced quarterbacks, it's a conversation whether or not they should have as much power as they do. Like, obviously, the Packers got a lot of slack last year with the field goal kick against the Bucs in the NFC Championship, and whether or not Rodgers should have coerced the coach into going for it on 4th down. And then now you see the opposite effect of that, where a quarterback has too much reins and think, okay, well, like should they have as much say as they do on these plays? Because I mean, ultimately the coach takes the responsibility for it anyways, as they always do. But I mean, it was a poor play call. It really didn't make any sense to throw anything outside the end zone. Period.
Like the Bengals probably thought Kansas City was going to throw the ball.
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
not run it up the middle?
I have no issue with them running a play. I have an issue with the play.
Yes.
Like if you run a quick slant to the end zone or fade even is probably better because then you're throwing it away for sure. It's either caught or you're throwing it away.
Yes.
Quick play, 2-3 seconds, you can still get your field goal team out.
Yeah.
But you know the way the Chiefs run their offense when the play is not originally there. Mahomes likes to scramble and move around and
buy time and ad lib.
And with 5 seconds, you just can't do that.
No.
And he threw it behind.
Unless you score. Unless,
Yeah, sure.
Unless the final outcome is 7 points.
And for a split second, Hill looked like he was going to break the corner a little bit, and then the Bengals had 2 corners or safety.
It was the corner, and then
corner
Hendrickson.
and safety, yeah. And then it was Hendrickson.
It was Hendrickson.
Okay.
He crashed, yeah.
Well, it's a great play for him to get outside there because it was. I thought he was going to catch
the corner
catch
made a
the
great
edge.
tackle.
Yeah,
and then Hendricks was there to.
Yeah,
if he broke
for
free.
a split second, I thought he was going to wiggle out of it, but yeah, it was a great tackle and that really gave them confidence because of that last score. And I didn't realize until the halftime show when they mentioned that Bengals were down 11 last time too. And I knew they had a slow start, but I didn't know it was 11 at half. So it was, I think it really gave them a sense of life, even though they hadn't really moved the ball a ton on offense. I think the one touchdown up to that point was just a screen to P. Ryan, so it wasn't really. It's kind of not a lucky play, but it was you don't get a ton of 40-yard screen passes for a touchdown.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
I don't think it was really a routine play that they drew up or anything schemed crazy.
Jamar Chase had a great block downfield.
Yeah,
freed up that corner.
So that really, they didn't really move the ball offensively, but it really gave them life because their defense hadn't done anything to that point, like besides the P. Ryan play. The offense hasn't really done a whole lot, but it just put them in that mindset that okay, we've been here before.
Yeah, that's right. So after the half, Mahomes came out flat. I feel like he came out really tight. And he looked across the field and he saw Joe Burrow, who's not going away.
No.
Not going away easy.
No.
Mahomes started with the ball, which I texted Shane
Yes.
and said, when there was 9 seconds left, I said, I know exactly how this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to score a touchdown. And they're going to come out after half, score another touchdown, 35-10, game's over.
Yeah.
They just waste the clock all game, score probably another couple touchdowns. And Shane is right in his prediction of 52-24.
Yeah. I mean, my score looked good until that one
Looked
tackle.
great.
It was crazy.
Spot on.
And, to be fair, coming out of the second half, the Bengals had a couple they had a big play to start to Higgins coming out of the half, and then they ended up punting from like the 40. So they didn't come out gangbusters either. It was a bit of a defensive struggle in the third quarter. So I think the Bengals might even punted twice, actually, coming out of the half. So it got really tense as we got to the fourth. And then, obviously, the Chiefs had only got a field goal in the second half. So, to be giving up 21 in the first half and still, by the end result, a relatively low-scoring game, considering.
Yeah, but definitely coming out of the third quarter.
Yeah, so, the Bengals definitely didn't feel comfortable coming out of the half. Like I said, they felt a jolt of life after halftime. I thought, okay, their defense made a couple stops. Hopefully their offense gets going too. Not necessarily the case starting off, but eventually they got their groove going. And another big game from Higgins. He's been big ever since I crapped on him at the start of the playoffs.
The Shane Stanley pick curse.
Honestly, almost every facet of the playoffs has been dead wrong. And he's really. I tell you, I might take him in fantasy next year. I was saying, during the game. Big thing for Cincinnati too is they lost their tight end in the first half, and it didn't seem to affect them too much in this game. Maybe going forward, we'll see. Both teams actually lost their tight end, so we're not sure the status of either. I believe Uzama had a sprain.
They both had ankle sprains.
Yeah, so they're
not
both
sure how serious or high or
relatively in the same boat. So we'll see how that shapes up for the Super Bowl. But without him and another big offensive piece, Mixon, didn't hear his name a ton.
Not really. He had a couple nice 8 to 10 yard runs.
He set him up in overtime once they got the turnover, but. I want to touch on that last drive that Kansas City had coming down the stretch. Now, it was almost a carbon copy of their first game. Cincinnati got the ball back with 6 minutes left, drove down the field, and Kansas City never did touch the ball after that. And we had talked about that if Kansas City scores here, we don't know if there's going to be enough time for them to come back and score. And eventually, once they got to the 2-minute warning, they can almost run it out if they manage the clock right. But they get to 3rd and goal. I believe it's from, do you know what?
9-yard, I think 9-yard line.
3rd and goal from the 9, and they have the huge sack. Like, the coverage didn't really get to Mahomes until those key 3rd down moments.
But if you think about even the 1st down, 2nd down play, and then the 3rd down play, Mahomes never threw a pass.
No.
1st down, tried to run. Or he was buying time, ran to the left, picked up 2 yards. 2nd down, they go back. He drops back again. He's tight, and he decides not to throw, and he breaks left again, avoids a sack.
Yeah.
Another 2-yard pickup.
Yeah.
Then on the 9, of course, he takes that big strip sack. That could have been the game right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you see that, and they managed to get it to fall on it, and it was a 17-yard loss. So it took a chip shot, which was a 27 from where the line of scrimmage was at that play, back to a 44-yard kick now, right in Butker's range still. But
Butker's probably thinking, what are you doing, Mahomes? Jesus! This is like one of the biggest kicks of my life here.
And you know what makes
sweating bullets.
A relatively easy kick to a pretty nervous kick there at the end. He may have made it look easy because he's a great player, but I mean, both of these kickers, you almost felt that the game was going to come down to a game-winning kick, and both of them had to hit big kicks.
They did. And in overtime, I didn't even see the first play. It was like kind of a bubble screen to 17. Robinson.
Hardman, I think is 17.
Okay.
I think
it might have been 11.
Robinson's 11, yeah.
Yeah. So it was an overthrow, and I think if the corner played it correctly, he might have been able to pick it up.
It didn't look as egregious as the 2nd down throw, but it was when you see it on first glance, you're like, oh my God, he had a shot that went clear over his head. Again, Mahomes looked very shaky in the second half, and then especially in overtime. Looking back at it from the previous week, as soon as they got the coin toss, you're thinking
I automatically
it's over now.
Oh my God, the football gods! I don't know what they're doing, but they're just like, here's a chance, Mahomes. Here's another chance, Mahomes.
It's 50-50, but it's like 99-1 when it's
really,
Chiefs. It's unbelievable. But I didn't have the same fear this week. The way that their offense has played in the second half.
They went 29 minutes and 59 seconds without scoring.
Only scoring 3 points. So you said, okay, you only got to stop them once. Their drive chart in the second half is punt, punt, pick, punt, punt, punt. So you stop them one more time either way. As we said, the first throw clearly over his head.
Second throw.
If it was overthrown a little bit more, could have been picked. Second play, just an egregious
drop. It was on Mahomes. It was not on the receiver.
No. It seemed like it was an option route or something, and he stopped on a curl, and he maybe thought he was going for on a out.
He looked to me like he had the corner beat. For the slant was there.
Yeah.
And Mahomes threw it, and it hit the defender right in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see Mahomes throwing his hands up as if the receiver did something terribly wrong. But God, I don't know.
So
we don't, like you said a couple weeks ago, we're not qualified enough. We don't know enough
to know exactly that route tree and what was
exactly.
It could have been he read the defense wrong or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So we're thinking, oh my God, had he caught that interception, it would have been right in range for the field goal, because once the turnover happens, you don't need a touchdown. You only need a field goal.
That's almost a blessing, though.
So at that point, I think it was around the 30 because he started on the 25. So it would have been pretty much field goal range around 47, yeah. So it really would have pretty much put the game at reach. So we're thinking, okay, he gets off with that. Another chance, 3rd down. Throws it deep to Tyreek. Throws it with confidence.
Man, he didn't throw a deep ball like that all game.
No, and he threw it like with such a, like, he wasn't pressured. It wasn't a rush throw by any means. So I thought, okay, as soon as this is going to pan downfield, it's going to be a wide open Kelsey or somebody down there.
Yeah.
So it's Hill, but he's in double coverage essentially.
And the DB made a great tip play.
Awesome play.
Tipped it right to the safety. Unreal.
Knew he had no shot to catch it, so he just played the ball to deflect it. Went right into the hands of Von Bell and ran it back to about the 45 of Cincinnati. Like I said, a couple key plays. Higgins had a huge catch. Second or third down. I think it was second because I don't remember being like, holy crap, they really got to get this.
It was like right on the first down line.
Yeah, it was right on. I believe it was 2nd and 8, and it was catch for 8, mixing out a couple key runs after that to get him down.
Yeah,
I almost looked like he was going to take one in.
Yeah,
so close, and they bleed the clock out from there and center it and set it up for McPherson and kicks him through again.
That's it. The Bengals to the Super Bowl. I did not think I'd be saying that.
I mentioned during this game that when we did our picks for Raiders and Bengals, I said, well, it don't matter who gets through this game.
Nobody wants to watch this game.
They don't have much of a chance of moving further in this game anyways, and here we are. They're one game away from world champions, so
unbelievable.
Crazy.
But then you could see that team really come alive and come into their own the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is a completely different team, I think, than the team that played Vegas wildcard weekend. They've really... It's almost like they've grown up in the past couple weeks. It's been so long for them since they had won a playoff game coming into this postseason. So to win 3 back-to-back now, I know their fans are probably going crazy. But
so when did Burrow have his ACL tear last year? What week was it?
I think it was mid-season. I'm not sure.
6 to 8, maybe?
6 to 8, yeah, somewhere in that range.
Really, he's only 25 games into his career.
Yeah.
And in the Super Bowl.
He's older than traditional quarterbacks that are in their second year.
He stayed an extra year.
He stayed an extra year. Like, there's some quarterbacks who, in their second season, are 22. He's 25.
Yeah, so, I think that's where Mahomes started, right?
Yeah, it's
22, 23.
Well, yeah, you feel like Mahomes has been here and he sat a year, too. So this is his 4th year starting, but it's his 5th year, whereas Burrow's 2nd, and they're almost the same age. So it's definitely strange to see, but no, I mean, good on him. We got that experience. So it's not NFL reps, sure, not as many, but he's not an inexperienced quarterback by any means.
No. Well,
so the funny thing with this game too was Cincinnati. This is the 3rd time that they've been to the Super Bowl, and the 2 previous times who'd they play? The 49ers. Which leads us into our second game here, the 49ers versus the Rams.
We thought it was destiny.
And yeah, it was setting up that way that it was the 3rd time in a row. And this is going back to the 80s, back to Montana. And who's the guy? Boomer Esiason, I think. It was the guy on CBS. He was on the panel with like Shannon Sharp and him when they used to do it a few years ago. I think he might still be there. He was the quarterback for Cincinnati back then. I was trying to think who was on that team. Yeah, I believe he was the quarterback on that team.
I feel like he looks nothing like a quarterback. You know what I mean?
To me,
like a big,
to me, he just looks like an NFL analyst.
Yeah,
that's all I've ever seen him do.
Wow. All right.
So yeah, those 2 teams matched up now. It would have been 3 times. So it brings us to our next game, and not meant to be.
Yeah,
it looked like it for 3 quarters.
It did. I thought my pick was safe, like the 49ers pick.
Yeah.
When they were up, 17-7.
17-7, yeah, they're up 10 points.
So to me, I was feeling pretty safe. But then Stafford started making some big throws.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. I've been shitting all over Stafford the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Had no faith in him whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely.
Watching this game, his calmness and his poise, it was impressive. He got great weapons. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And he's not doing it all himself by any means, but he's just making great plays. Even his pick on the goal line in the first quarter wasn't his fault.
It wasn't a great selection, but it was...
It was double coverage to the best receiver in football.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes you take that chance and a bit of pressure on him or whatever. You're trying to get rid of that ball, especially down there. You don't want to take a sack down on the goal line. So, I mean, that's a pretty understandable play to make. And
like, I've seen Brady make that play.
Tip balls, I mean, sure, it's happened all year. Brady had 12 picks. Mahomes had damn near that number. Stafford led the league. They weren't all his fault. This is one of them. But, overall, it was a pretty impressive performance. It kind of brings to mind, like, if he had... I don't want to make this a direct comparison because it's not, but if he had the teams like the Packers over the years, just making a direct comparison because they were in the same division, like Rodgers' playoff record is not good, and Stafford's had 3 wins this year with a team finally around him. If you put the Packers teams around him, would he have a Super Bowl or 2 already? Probably.
Who knows?
I mean, who knows? It's hard to say. Rodgers only with one. Stafford would match him here. I mean, legacy-wise, it's not really. But Stafford is top 10 in almost every statistical category.
Yeah, he's got the stats. He just has no team
It's such
success.
a big game for him, I think, legacy-wise, coming up, because he'll be one of those players, always one of the best ones to not have one. Dan Marino or a few of those other guys who are almost identical, really. Like, top 10 in stats and just never won it. And, he'll never crack top 5 because you're getting really into your upper
2 to 3
upper echelon guys. But, I mean, I think even with one, he'll pass. Like Rivers never had one. Roethlisberger, Manning, he certainly puts himself in that kind of category.
Yeah. Well, over Eli.
Yeah.
Eli was...
Well, I mean, he still got the 2 Super Bowls to 1, but I mean, like, at that point, you're thinking, okay, he's had a junk team for, 12 years. If he had a little bit of help.
He did have arguably the best wide receiver ever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
Right? Which is tough. But if that's all you have, well,
and
you're not going.
And again, we discussed this the other day. He did still bring them to the playoff one time with Megatron later in his career. But overall, he hasn't really had a chance, and he's finally given a team around him. And again, everybody that they brought in, they're relatively healthy, like I said, besides Higbee and Robert Woods missing. But for the most part, they got a pretty good team. They brought Weddle back to cover for their safety that's hurt. But they brought in those key pieces at key moments, and they're all seeming to contribute.
Yeah. Well, Jalen Ramsey, unbelievable. Von Miller, I don't know.
He looks like old Von.
He does. He does. Coming off the edge, one-on-one.
He's getting those one-on-one matchups, right?
Right, it's making it easy for him. And Donald is a monster.
Just a piece.
Just on the last drive there where Jimmy had a chance to go down, kick a field goal, tied up.
Right.
We were sizing it up because I was thinking Aaron Donald had to be doubled on that play.
Mm-hmm.
It looked to me like the center should have shifted and chipped Donald and then come back inside the block.
Yeah, we actually completed the game and went back to see on that play whether or not what the matchup was for him, and it just looked like he just had the right guard on him.
Right guard, yeah.
And he bull rushed him, shoved him aside pretty easy, and Jimmy was instantly running for his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he started scrambling, and I'm like, okay, the play's still alive. And then I seen who was chasing him. All I seen was 99. I said, he's in trouble.
Yeah. That's not Wayne Gretzky. That's Aaron goddamn Donald. You better look at it. Destroyer of worlds.
So we were watching, we mentioned a few weeks ago, Buddy Versa watches the game with us, as Rams fan, and he was very nervous throughout this game. And what I told him was, listen, unless you're within one score, I wouldn't get too nervous. And then they go down 2 scores, and they really got to come back. And Kupp was, unbelievable in this game again. Odell had a huge game.
I was asking Shane, could this game be the duel of wide receivers, Debo versus Kupp?
Yeah, and it certainly looked that way. Debo had a huge. Again, I said earlier, you don't see many 40-yard screen passes that. Or go for a touchdown, but another one here.
You see it a lot with Debo.
Yeah,
maybe the only player.
That's right up his alley. That's his specialty, right? I mean, you just get him in space, and he'll take care of the rest, and that's really what he did.
Yeah.
Again, they seem to be pounding him a couple times,
and he just kept getting up.
He kept getting up. He stayed down a couple times, and they attended on him, and he knew that if he came out of the game. Just a few jarring hits. Again, we said whether or not Jimmy was leading them into traffic a little bit. But
that defenseless receiver flag that came out.
It was out, yeah.
It was out,
yeah.
And then the refs picked it up. I'm thinking because they thought that his head had snapped back due to helmet-to-helmet contact.
And it was a hit to the chest. Like, it wasn't a helmet-to-helmet. So, I'm not sure how much on the targeting rule. Again, I'm not familiar to a reffing extent. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the way they play. But in today's game, I mean, you can't touch certain skill players in that way. I mean, I can't blame the safety for making a break on him, especially in that scenario where it's Debo and he's going to make a big play, driving down at the end of the half there to try to get some more points before halftime. And he made a good break on it. I'm not sure who it was who made the hit. It may have been Weddle. And he went in. like I said, there was no helmet-to-helmet contact, but a big jarring hit. And then, again, in the second half, the play had went by. He had completely slowed down.
It was an incomplete.
Slowed down.
Ball was on the turf.
Almost to a walk, to the point where he was completely stopped, and another guy pushed him from behind, and nothing again. It was strange, It is what it is there. I mean, there was opportunities on both sides. I mean, we've seen a wide open receiver for the Rams. We didn't know his name. I called him Scrawny No Neck. His name was Skowronek or something. Skowronek, yeah. And I was thinking was Skro and what looked like No Neck, so I called him Scrawny No Neck. And Boss got a kick at that.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So
but he dropped a wide open touchdown.
He was wide open, yeah, and he dropped one. And then, I mean, obviously the dropped interception by Tart.
But that Skowronek dropped touchdown led to a missed field goal by McVay.
Yes.
Turnover on downs.
Yes.
So,
yes.
That's a 7-point swing, potentially 3-point swing.
And again, with the dropped interception there, led to points later on. So
yeah, Robbie Gould ended up with a field goal at the end of the half there after that sequence.
Yes. So it was a lot of swings either way. So the opportunities were there, and again, going back to the interception earlier, that was again right on the 2-yard line. So there was points there that was taken away. So again, everybody was a bit nervous because they only had 7 points, but the opportunities were there. They certainly should have had a lot more points than 7 at that point. So I said, don't be too nervous yet. They're moving the ball pretty consistently.
The whole game, I felt like the Rams were in command.
Yeah, it felt.
I don't know about you, Shane.
The only time I felt that right after Kittle's touchdown to put him up, I believe that's what made it 17-7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with 2 minutes to go left in the third. So another thing, the Rams were challenging pretty pointless plays, in my opinion.
Taking timeouts to avoid delay of game penalties.
That should never happen at home.
Especially in the NFC Championship Games.
Pre-snap penalties shouldn't happen.
You got a coach like Sean McVay.
Bad communication. They challenged a quarterback sneak that just, almost never gets overturned.
Well, it looked short to begin with.
It looked short. Yeah, it didn't look a certain way. It looked like a pretty correct spot. They measured. It was short. Then they challenged, which the most they can do is move the ball and remeasure. It almost never gets overturned. Even if it does, it still wasn't guaranteed that he made it. I thought that was a poor choice. And then the fumble on Juszczyk, he threw it with such confidence and was saying, no, he wasn't down. They showed the replay. It wasn't even close.
He dunked it on the goal dunked it on the first down. It just
didn't look close at all. I don't know what they were seeing there. And they were out of timeouts almost immediately in the fourth quarter, and it looked like it could be a disaster potentially.
Yeah, it was the end of the third quarter, I believe. They were out of timeouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they used 2 in the third, so I believe they continued on with the drive then in the fourth. Cut the lead to 3, 17-14. Just unbelievable plays from him. Almost 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. He just did what he did all year.
And then Odell. 113.
His biggest game in over 2 years, he says. Yeah. This is his first time getting 100 yards. I was blown away with that.
You were blown away,
I could not believe it.
First off, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But then I thought, 3 years of football?
Well, 2019. It's 2022.
3 years of football. And Odell Beckham Jr. maybe got the best hands in the entire league.
Yeah.
Crazy one-handed catch. Greatest catch of all time. Hasn't had a 100-yard game in 3 years.
Well, that's the thing with him. Do you think he's still a number one guy? I know they talk, Skip and Shannon talk about this a lot. Obviously, they go back and forth on Odell. And Shannon said that he's a number one guy. He's just not going to be because he's with Kupp. And, that's absolutely true.
I agree.
That's absolutely true. He's going to be behind Kupp. Is he a number one guy? That's an interesting question.
Yes.
That's debatable. If he signs to New England, he'd be the number one guy. Absolutely. If he goes somewhere that, they've got a pretty established one.
Raiders.
He's not ahead of Adams. He's not ahead of Evans. He's not ahead of a few guys
even
like that.
Maybe Godwin.
He'd have the. It's hard to say he's top 10, top 15.
He does seem like he's lost a step of quickness just from injuries.
Yeah, I'm not sure how old he is now. I mean, he's got to be, his mid to late 20s. I would
29,
say is a safe bet. Yeah, so I mean, he's getting there. They don't have the same longevity as quarterbacks usually. Usually running backs and receivers, once they hit 30, you start really questioning how much they got left. So we'll see.
You're probably not going to pay them big money after that.
No, so we'll see. I mean, a lot of sources seem to think that the Rams are just going to try to retain him, and that's almost a done deal.
Yeah.
Not that they can talk about it at this point, obviously, but it seems like there's no, where's Odell going to go in free agency? Like, there is some other big name.
If they were to lose in the divisional round, then maybe they would have said, okay, maybe we'll draft a wide receiver, or we'll get something on the go and let him go.
And we have to remember that Robert Woods will be back too. So, exactly. I mean, they still got 3 solid pieces, plus Higbee, plus the running backs. I don't think it's a huge loss for him, but if they can bring him back for cheap, I imagine, he's not. Yeah, and again, he's making incentives for every time they win. I mean, I've seen that a couple times. Every time they win, he gets another $500 or $750K. Is that going to help him when it comes to resigning? For sure, because he's going to have more money. He's not going to be demanding as much.
I feel like he could go for, after the way he's played now in the playoffs, maybe between $4 and $6 million a year.
You could see something similar to Juju Smith-Schuster last year. He had 1 foot out the door. He was gone, and then he just signed a 1-year deal to come back. I say maybe something similar to that.
Yeah.
But they definitely got a great team in place. I mean, obviously going forward to the Super Bowl.
Well, they're number 1 ranked defense overall.
Yeah, I mean,
and the number 5 ranked offense.
They've got a complete team. Absolutely. I mean, they've got skill positions in every layer of defense, every layer of offense.
Star players in positions.
Pretty good depth. It's really, really a complete team. And Cincinnati's got a good offense and a good defense too. So it really is shaping up to be a pretty interesting game.
It is.
And we'll get into it a bit more next week when it comes to the X's and O's and all that expert analysis we bring every week. But so the big news today, we had wrote down coming into this week that we were just going to kind of talk about what we thought. The rumors are on Tom Brady.
With this weird ESPN story that came out, somebody leaked the fact Tom Brady was retiring.
Conflicting reports all over the place. And
then his dad and Arians and Jason Light come out and say, no, we haven't heard a thing, so it's not true.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a done deal, and then he immediately reached out to the Bucs to say, hey, no, I'm still thinking about it. And obviously, when you hear a rumor like that, there's some truth to it. For it to come out, obviously someone close to his inner circle who let something leak to somebody and got into the wrong hands, but he confirmed it today.
He did, with a very, very long Instagram post.
Yeah, it was.
He thanked everybody.
They had pictures up, and it was about 10 pages long, and like John said, he thanked everybody but the team he was with for 20 years.
Yeah, he thanked everybody except for anyone to do with the Patriots.
And I'm
even Robert Kraft.
I'm
Belichick,
sure,
of course.
He's very close with Robert Kraft, so I imagine there was a call there between the two of them. And
Kraft put out a statement as well.
Yeah, I mean everybody really did. Like Arians did. Bills had quotes. I don't think he put out an official statement, but he's had quotes throughout this season, especially when they were playing him in Week 4 about what he thought about him. And this was talked about. It wasn't a huge shocker. I mean, it was a bit more of a gut punch this weekend when we first heard about it, because it seemed like it came out of nowhere. Just a random Saturday before the games and everything seemed like a weird time, but now makes a little bit more sense. We can kind of talk about it this week without the Super Bowl coming up. We got the week in between, and kind of makes sense to kind of let it out now, and then we'll get to the big game next week. But for now, so I mean,
I thought for sure he would wait till after Super Bowl, but I feel like this ESPN thing kind of forced his hand,
He always had his forced hand just because Tampa never really had anything lined up. They drafted a quarterback last year in the second round. So, I mean, is that where they want to go now? We'll see, but it certainly gives them a lot of time now. Roethlisberger made his last week, but his was pretty set in stone. But it was almost the same time frame, about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and this might be a domino effect for a lot of people with the Bucs, as we talked about. Gronk and AB's already gone. And
do you think that the Bucs are in play for a big quarterback move? And do you think they're set up for, if they do get one, going forward, will they be a contender?
They're definitely set up if they get one.
Well, they got a great defense. They retained all their pieces pretty well. We listed last week how many pieces
they do have some aging contracts on defense. Sue and JPP, I think, are one foot at the door. Less so JPP. Sue almost retired last year.
Yeah.
So he's definitely gone. A couple other debt pieces that they had on defense are going. They still got the core.
You think about it. Vita Vea, there. Shaq Barrett, there. Levante David, Devin White, there. Young backfield, the secondary.
They just drafted Tryon. He'll step right in where JPP was if he goes. Their corners, we'll see. Carlton Davis is free agent. That's their best corner. So
they do have up-and-coming corners, though.
I think he has a strong possibility of getting the franchise tag. So I expect him to be around. There's been every indication that they're bringing Godwin back. Evans is long-term. Howard and Rojo are probably going to go, but Braid's under contract. Gronk hasn't ruled out.
Fournette also is potentially leaving, right?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a strong potential of that. And again, if they lose Rojo and Fournette, then they'll be in the running for Gonna have to, in the running for a running back too. So the draft is really going to be interesting for them. So turning to that a little bit, we got those we kind of discussed a few weeks ago. The top 10 are, might not take quarterbacks, so it could be a very strange draft. The Patriots have number 21, and the Bucs have number 27. Those are, again, the teams we primarily cover. But I mean,
what do you think for New England? What do you think they need to address?
New England's very interesting because there's so many different avenues they can go. A lot of talk so far from beat writers on their team that I've heard is wide receiver, which is an exciting
I feel like it has to be addressed.
I mean, it's just like Bill Belichick to go take a friggin' another defensive tackle in the first round.
Or linebacker.
Just be boring for everyone, right? Or linebacker, yes. Which I wouldn't hate it this year because Hightower's likely gone.
Collins, you haven't seen him.
Collins has been a ghost. Who knows what Van Noy's going to bring next year going forward. He seems like he's on the decline, if anything. Juwan Bentley's been okay at best, not great. I mean, they don't really have the best linebacking core, so a young, fast linebacker, they were probably going to be in the running for Micah Parsons last year had they not taken Max. So they were still kind of had a hole there in linebacker. And, of course, Hightower came back from he was on the COVID list the year before, the opt-out for 2020. So it was good to get him back this year, but that might be gone next year. I think Devin McCourty's probably going to retire. The biggest piece for them, J.C. Jackson, he's
signed, isn't he?
He's unrestricted this year.
Jesus.
So I don't know if he's unrestricted or restricted. I actually don't know.
Do you think he'll get franchised if he is unrestricted?
That's the strong potential. Yeah, there's a strong potential for that because I don't know if they want to dive full on with him. It seems like they're a little bit questionable.
Give him the franchise. That's almost $20 million.
Because he's one of those, like we talked about with Trayvon Diggs. Like he had a lot of picks, but he gives up a lot of plays too. He's a little bit aggressive. He's getting a little ball hawk happy now.
Yeah.
They don't know if they want to give him a Gilmore type contract when they signed him 5 years ago. 5 years, $75 million. It's a lot of guaranteed money there. So
Gilmore was a safe bet because he's the shutdown.
He was the best corner in the league when he signed. Same with Revis when they did bring Revis in a few years ago. He was the best corner. J.C. Jackson has a lot of interceptions, but I don't think it's safe to say he's the best corner in NFL. So.
Ramsey.
But that's the thing. Like you got to pay these positions.
When they grow up, you got to pay them if you want them.
If you want them, yes, you got to pay them, and like that's the kind of position they're in now. So at 21.
So this could be a rebuilding defense.
It could be. I mean, like the offense got younger. The defense did get a bit younger, but it's an old team. It is a very old team, and all that veteran leadership that was there for all those championships is starting to catch up on them because that core was Hightower and McCourty and Collins.
Jamie Collins.
And all those guys are going. Obviously, their offense took a turn for the younger last year. Now it's probably the defense this year. So, I mean, looking at it on paper, yeah, it's probably going to be a defensive pick. But
that or wide receiver. I can see both.
It's a wide receiver heavy draft because it's not a quarterback heavy. There could be 5-6 receivers taken in the first round. So there's definitely going to be a lot of talk of those. I mean, you're in basically the top 20. With there not being a strength of quarterbacks, there's a run on quarterbacks last year, which kind of bumped those secondary positions down a little bit. Micah Parsons probably would have been a top 10 pick had it been this year's draft.
He also sat for a year or two, right?
Yeah.
Or was injured. Mm-hmm. So his draft capital kind of dropped.
And there's a couple of receivers there that are coming in that had torn ACLs and stuff, and there's a lot of questions on a lot of them, but you
might get them in the second round, third round.
Same as every and that may be the play. You may get a very strong linebacker at 21, and then you might be able. And the thing with Belichick that worries me is they only got 6 picks this year, and he traditionally likes to draft down sometimes and acquire more picks rather than quantity over quality, to try to hit on something late. And so we'll see what they do, but.
But what about Jacksonville here? What do you do if you're them?
Offensive
line.
I believe the perennial first pick is probably some sort of defensive lineman, and that's not a bad show for them. I mean, they're obviously set at quarterback. They've got a decent offense considering. I mean, they got a couple wideouts that are pretty good. I see them going defense. It'll be like a Clowney when he was number 1 overall, Chase Young, someone along that ilk. So we'll see. And a lot of these teams that are early on in the draft, Detroit, Houston, Jets, like
what I can see with Jacksonville is maybe trading down to 4, maybe trade, or with the Giants 5, because they've got 2 picks in the top 7, right?
Yeah.
So if they trade down, they'll get an additional pick, and maybe taking a wide receiver, offensive lineman, or edge rusher.
Yeah.
Stay at 1 to get the edge rusher.
One of the most interesting teams looking at the draft board is Philadelphia. They've got 15, 16, and 19. That's
a good range.
It's a good
decisions.
It's a good range, but they're all so close. I don't imagine that got trade written all over it. I don't think they're going to want to make potentially, yeah, maybe trade the 19 into 15 or something along those lines. Probably take the back one and one of the top ones move up towards the top 10. Maybe if there's someone there.
It's hard to say. So who do you see them getting? I feel like they need to shore up their defense a little bit.
Yeah. No, I feel like their offense is heading in the right direction. I mean, they feel pretty safe with Jalen Hurts going forward.
It's very run heavy though.
It is.
If you play a team like the Bucs where it's all run defense, well, you're going to run into a wall, right? Because they're forcing you to pass the ball.
They're an aging defense as well. They're trending towards the older side on that, and they're almost a carbon copy to New England. Squeaking to the playoffs. Not much hope for them beyond that. Younger offense, older defense. We feel good with where we are. Not great.
Well, everyone wrote them off.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
In this upcoming draft.
They always had 3 picks because of the Wentz trade. So there was
depending on where Indianapolis finished.
Yeah, early in the year when Indianapolis was 1-4, Miami was just awful, and Philadelphia themselves didn't have a great record. So they had 3 picks in the top 10 originally, and unluckily for them, they made the playoffs. That's great for them, but all 3 dropped.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You figure at least one of them would stay in the top 10, but all 3 dropped to around the middle range there. So, that's got trade written all over it for me. So, I don't know. Is there a team... the Rams don't have a first-round pick, obviously, for a long time. Maybe they'll trade a piece of theirs to get into the first round. Who knows? Just trying to think of other teams that don't have a first-round pick.
For me, teams that are going to trade up, it's either there's an absolute stud sitting at a certain number, and it's 2 picks away, or there's an absolutely great quarterback, and the team in that slot doesn't need a quarterback.
Do you think?
And for me, there's no quarterbacks.
Without getting into specific names, because we haven't really dove into the names a ton. I haven't seen a whole lot of mock drafts or anything yet. I don't think any quarterbacks stand out. There's not a whole lot of teams that need them, really. there's so many teams that are on the brink, you know.
Like the Giants, man. I feel like they should take one.
But like they're one of those teams. They got a quarterback, but do they still need one? Yeah, you might think so. Like the Saints. What are they doing? Like they're just.
Do you trust Taysom Hill? Sean Payton's not even
Winston
there
was
anymore.
only signed back to a 1-year deal, so he's off the books now going into next season. Like, what do you do
There's
with him?
a quarterback for somebody.
Do you let him walk? Yeah, and who would sign him if they don't? I at this point, I imagine they would lean towards not re-signing him. So
would you bring him back with the Bucs?
I thought about it. I thought that there's actually potential for that. There's actually strong potential for that because he knows the system and
knows the receivers.
If nothing else, if they're not sold on Kyle Trask yet. To jump right in there. Blaine Gabbert, I don't imagine they feel comfortable starting. So, I mean, he does kind of bridge that gap to year 3 with Trask, and then they might feel a little bit better with that.
Yeah.
And it seems like Leftwich is not going to Jacksonville now. That seemed like a done deal for their head coach. So, that's their offensive coordinator back. So, that does help Tampa Bay in that sense.
Man,
if he doesn't get that job. Todd Bowles, I heard he was interviewing for the Minnesota job, and I haven't really heard much after that.
But you figure between the coordinators for Kansas City and Tampa,
I'm blown away.
Some of them would get hired, and it looks like none of them.
Bieniemy hasn't had an interview at all. I mean, he was still playing, so I think that had a lot to do with it. But maybe you'll see something more this week. But I mean, I haven't heard anything on him. That's shocking.
Insane.
I mean,
I was totally shocked.
2 or 3 years now. That he's been a heavy candidate for a couple teams, and he's just they're not hiring, they're not even bringing him in. Like, I don't know, it's very, very bizarre what is going on with him.
No, maybe people are looking at it and saying, look, Mahomes runs that much off script stuff that it's not even the offensive coordinator that's driving that success. It's Mahomes' ability to buy time.
And it sucks for him, too, that, like, that last game, like, if the season had ended after the Buffalo game, every team be lining up to hire him. But that specific game and that specific game plan heading into the second half and beyond is going to hurt him now going forward, too.
Yeah.
So
that's a stain on his
we'll see. But
resume.
Looking at the coaches, too, totally whiffed over this when talking about New England. McDaniels is gone.
And who's the exec?
Ziegler. He has, I don't know what exactly his job, like director of player personnel or something.
Right.
One of those kind of like wordy titles that I don't really know what they do. He does have a hand in the drafting, so that is interesting.
Might benefit the Raiders.
Yeah. So
although the drafting for New England has been half shit.
That's where you say, how much does Bill just make his own move? How much does he listen to other people? Like, we don't know.
So how much experience might this guy actually have?
Yeah, we don't know.
Bill takes it all on.
See, it's not necessarily experience. I think he's been there, but how much of a hand does he have on it? Like, he can say, Bill, I want to take this guy. And Bill's like, well, I don't really care. I'm taking him. Right? I'm taking someone completely different. I don't know how much his intel really has with their drafting in the past couple of years. But as you said, it's been wishy-washy. Last year's draft was great. I mean, I think you look back at it with a pretty favorable outlook for the future. So we'll see what happens with them this year and if it's a plus or a minus, because Nick Caserio, who's the GM of the Houston Texans now, also was on their draft team for the past couple of years. So they've lost 2 guys from their draft team recently, and obviously Josh has been the offensive coordinator for going on almost the entire run with Brady. He left briefly to head coach Denver, failed with that, instantly came back, had a head coaching job in Indianapolis, which was a pretty good place at the time.
Yes.
Turned it down for some reason and came back. So, I mean, that's going to hurt their offense too. So, does that encourage them to take another offensive piece? Because they might have to change their entire offense.
Yeah. I feel like I get this weird feeling that the thought of leaving for Bill Belichick is creeping in. Josh McDaniels is gone. People are leaving. You got a rookie quarterback now going into his sophomore season. You just spent so much money, and I'm not sure if, like we said, this season was a success.
Yes.
After last year.
Yeah.
You're in the playoffs, but then to get stomped by Buffalo.
But see, it was a success because of the hand that they're dealt with. Because that going into the offseason, we're saying it's an aging defense. It was an aging defense in that game too.
Yes.
It was always going to be that way, right? So that was going to be their Achilles heel, whether it was that game or the next game, or God forbid they went on a run. But at that point, I guess we wouldn't be complaining about it. But a lot of those pieces are leaving now, especially with that game result being the way it was. They're looking, okay, are we necessarily that close? Looking at all the offenses, as we mentioned in the past couple of weeks with AFC, sometimes you might just need to build an offense that's going to score 40 points.
Yes. You just, build for shit.
Is the route to go in the AFC, is it to draft defense, or is it to just draft a strong league? It's
tough to call.
It's an interesting question. I mean, and I still think the strength is the defense, regardless about who leaves of the team, because I'm just not sold on the offense. But not being sold on the offense, that's why a guilty part of me really wants them to take a receiver.
Yeah.
Because I think there's going to be some good ones available, but we'll see more on that as we get close.
So I want to get into talking a little bit about Sean McVay. His big trade for Stafford after a losing season, not a losing season, but they lost in the divisional, right?
Yeah, they lost to the Packers last year.
Lost to the Packers last year, and the year before that, was that the Super Bowl year?
No, the Super Bowl was
2019, right?
2018.
18, okay.
And then the year that the Chiefs won in 2019, I'm not sure what they did that year.
Yeah.
And then last year was the Packers.
These last 3 years, looking at Goff, Sean McVay kind of understandably just got pissed off with it and made this trade for Stafford. And Goff did get him to a Super Bowl, managing games. It wasn't crazy fireworks or anything. But is that trade validated now with Stafford bringing them to the Super Bowl? Or do they actually have to win it for that move to be validated?
The funny thing about them is that team that made it to the Super Bowl 3 years ago reminded me a lot of the team they just beat. And the 49ers team is very similar.
Very similar.
They were strong on defense. They really didn't want to put the ball in the hands of the quarterback when it mattered. Going back to that Super Bowl, they only scored 3 points. It wasn't a good day. Belichick's absolutely destroyed them with a fantastic game plan. They never really had a chance. They had good offensive pieces. I believe they were missing Kupp in that game.
They were, yeah.
But they did have some strong pieces around still. So obviously they felt the biggest piece was the quarterback, and they made a move for it. And like I said, they've mortgaged their future completely. Their next first-round pick is 2024. They haven't had a first-round pick in the past couple of years. It's been 6 first-round picks dealt since 2018 to just keep gaining pieces. And they traded for the Patriots a few years ago for Brandon Cooks, and then they brought in Miller this year, signed Odell, Sony Michel. Yeah, so they're bringing in these pieces. They're drafting a couple of them. So, they've done well to build a solid core. So by no means are they done if they don't win it this year. But they are to the same level as what they were with Goff. Yeah. So the question is now, are they... And they're set up for success. Let's say that first, because Brady's gone now, so Tampa's potentially at least a hell of a step back. Packers, we'll see. And then who else? The 49ers, like I said, only one team can win, so one team is going to be potentially the 1 seed next year, and everyone else is below.
Yeah.
So what did the
49ers do?
And maybe Dallas, So there's not a ton of competition in the NFC, and it's certainly their time to step up if they want to make a move. By the way, with Dallas, so that's a whole other side of the.
It is their opportunity the next couple of years, but Sean McVay ultimately, in my opinion, I think they have to win this game because it's tough to get to the Super Bowl. Last time they got there, and like I said, nearly shut out. And now 4 years later, they're back again. And if they lose, it's crushing.
My gut is telling me, too, that they had missed the playoffs the following year when they made it in 2018. I think they might even miss the playoffs in the following year. Because I know Seattle will still make the playoffs a lot of stuff back then. But I feel, too, they're definitely set up to move forward with a good team. But... they're the favorites in this game They're the betting favorites. It's at home. I was wrong, by the way, the other day. I mentioned that they were going to be the road team. They are the home team, setting up for.
Cincinnati's home team.
Yes, Cincinnati's. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So they're at home, but they'll be using the road team locker room and all that. So it is going to be a bit of a strange.
So they don't get that advantage.
Experience. I was thinking last year that Tampa Bay was the road team, but they weren't. So I was wrong in that. We're talking about that. Watching the games on Sunday. So.
For me, ultimately they got to win.
Assuming that, like we mentioned, they bring Odell back, they get Robert Woods back. I mean, they're still a solid team. I mean, okay, here's a funny thing that doesn't make any sense to me. Do you know that Russell Wilson and Matt Stafford are the same age? That is mind-boggling. Because Stafford was drafted in 2008 or 2009. He seems a lot older than what he is. And Wilson was really coming into prominence in like 2012. So there's a huge gap there.
Jesus, how long was Wilson in the league before Legion of Boom?
I believe like he was a 4th-round pick, so he definitely stayed in college as long as he possibly could.
True that.
And Stafford was the first overall pick, so he came straight out.
Got killed early.
Yeah, came straight out. Like he's probably only in college 2 years or whatever the limit is for coming out. So, now, to be fair about the age, Stafford literally turned 34 in 6 days.
Right.
February 7th is his birthday. I looked it up. So, he is technically a year older again. But I guess Wilson will turn 34 this calendar year, too. It's just like later in the year. But I find that so crazy that Stafford seems like he'd be like closer to like Aaron Rodgers' age, where I said that's almost a better comparison, that they've been playing in the league almost the same amount of time, like when Rodgers sat for a couple of years till Favre left. He really started playing in 08, and then Stafford in 08 or 09. I'm not sure the exact year he started playing, but it was around that time. So they almost seem like they started at the same time. And Wilson was after, but he's actually the same age as Wilson. So
that's interesting.
He actually does have a couple more years here to run.
Yeah, I'm guessing maybe 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, and now he has taken quite a beating in his career.
He got killed last game.
He was beat up
multiple times, holding his hip and his leg and his chest, and
So, long story short, no, I don't think their window's closed if they don't win this game. I think it's one of their better opportunities given the opponent. Because of how strong the AFC could be, I think they'd rather see Cincinnati next week than Kansas City. But, I mean, who knows? They beat them twice, so it's still hard to say that. I still think if Kansas City and Cincinnati play 10 times, Kansas City wins more.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably, on paper, one of their best opportunities. And, I mean, obviously, how hard it is to get back here, you got to take advantage of it while you're there. I thought that last year, like everyone said, this year is when Tampa's going to do really good. They were ahead of schedule last year. It's not easy. They had a tougher road this year, and I didn't think it coming into the season. I was like, the only team that's even in competition is Green Bay, maybe the Rams, and that was it. I didn't fear anybody else. And obviously all the injuries and get banged up, and I mean that could easily happen.
They came in last year fully healthy.
What if Kupp gets hurt next year? What if Stafford gets hurt? I mean, Stafford's had a lot of injuries.
Never know. Anything could happen.
Right? So, I mean, while they're here, they certainly got to take advantage. And, like, it's the same thing with Burrow and them. The AFC, the outlook is not looking any easier, if anything, tougher over the next couple of years.
He's so early in his career, though. It's the biggest game he's ever played in his entire life.
Yeah. I think it's actually a better chance that he never gets back than the Rams, I think.
Just because the AFC. I can see that.
Just because of the AFC. So I think it might be a bit more pressure on them to win if they want it.
But I feel like there's absolutely zero pressure for Cincinnati. Just because they're not supposed to be here.
There's pressure just because it's the Super Bowl.
But think about the Patriots in their first visit to the Super Bowl. Against 14-point underdogs against the Rams.
Yeah, and
it's like, we're here to lose.
It's crazy that you pointed this out to me, the comparison between Burrow and Brady, and we wanted to touch on that. So it's a nice transition to lead into that. That where the Cincinnati Bengals are now going into the Super Bowl is almost reminiscent of the 2001 Patriots and who they play in the Super Bowl, the Rams. Yeah. So it's funny how the parallels are matching up with those two.
To me, it's carbon copies.
It's because
this has nothing to do with how they play or anything. But they both had the ACL injury.
Yes.
Which is strange parallel.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Brady was probably around the same age because same thing, he was a late round pick, so similar to Wilson, I think he started a bit later than what he would have if he was an early pick. Now Burrow's got that on him, being the number 1 overall pick. He got drafted
a Heisman and a national championship.
The guy just wins.
He just wins,
and that's what you've heard about Brady in the past couple of years. He's not always the prettiest ball in the world, and he's don't got the arm strength that's gonna kill you, but he's just a born leader and a born winner.
He'll throw it through the window,
and we've
tight window is coming.
We've seen that with Burrow. We said that the other day. We said, man, this guy is, you could tell he's just a leader, the way he talks in his press conferences and how everybody was coming to see him after the game. He didn't even want to do an interview. He's too busy taunting everybody. He's just seems like a people person. He wants to go and talk to every one of his teammates and make everyone a priority on the team. And
for me, it comes down to the 3 C's: courage, confidence, and composure. And he's got them all, same as Brady.
He's got them all, yeah, he do.
Regardless of the situation, down 18 points to Kansas City in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Not phased, just...
It's easy to roll over and die there.
Yes, exactly.
Easy.
Yeah. And there's no, I'm just going to sit down and take this L and leave.
Yeah.
You're going to go down swinging, and he's going to lead you, man. He's going to lead you to the promised land, and they're in the Super Bowl, Same as Brady in his second year.
Yeah.
First year, I guess, starting. Yeah. Made Super Bowl, man, and here he is.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly is set up for success now with the way that they drafted over the past couple of years, and the offense has fallen into place. The defense is pretty good. Like, I don't know. Like, I may have underrated them. Like, I imagine they'll be quite a heavy favorite to win their division next year.
Yes.
The only team that stands out is Baltimore, I think. So I think they're bound to come back better. I can't imagine they'll have the same injury luck they did this year.
Sure that.
Pittsburgh, they're an absolute wild card.
Aaron Rodgers goes there.
If Aaron Rodgers goes there, it completely changes everything. So really, they're up in the air. Cleveland seems like the worst of the 4 right now.
They get Aaron Rodgers, well.
yeah, imagine.
Oh my God.
That would be absolutely wild.
Yeah. But I just find that as one career is ending, the other is starting in the exact same place where the other guy
It's almost like he reincarnated.
Brady's done, passes the torch to Burrow, and here we go.
Yeah, it's passing of the torch a little bit. It's almost sad that they're not playing against each other, because
that would be nuts.
I know the parallel will be less because it's the Rams he's playing, but it would kind of be that kind of game.
But it was there last year, right? Everyone thought Tom Brady to Mahomes.
This is it, yeah, absolutely.
Passing the torch.
Absolutely.
Brady crushes him.
Yeah.
And comes back. That would have been an interesting storyline.
Yeah,
Burrow versus Brady.
It definitely would have been. Yeah. So, well, sadly, we won't ever get that, and they'll never play. They were set to play the AFC North next year too, so they would have got one game, but yeah, they'll never play now. But so we got Burrow versus Stafford instead. Like I said, there's a bit of pressure on both. This could be the biggest game in either of their careers now. We don't know it in the sense of Burrow quite yet. It might be bigger ones. I don't know. I can't imagine. And then for Stafford, who knows? This could be it for him.
This could be.
Who
I read
there too.
Joe Cool, right? It's his nickname, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's 8-0 in his 8 biggest games of his career. Wow. Crazy. I don't know. This guy just has some sort of fight in him.
That's what it is with them. You don't know. You don't know what it is, but it's like the it factor.
You can't put your finger on it.
Right?
You can't quantify the stats.
There's no tangible reason why you feel this way. You just feel it. You just feel a certain aura around that team and him specifically. Just the way he dresses and the way he talks and the way he carries himself. Like you said, the 3 C's. He shows it all the time, and I feel like he's just a different. He's a strange dude. Brady's a strange dude with the way he eats and the way he takes care of his body and stuff. I mean, that's what it takes. Sometimes it takes an oddball.
The social media weirdness.
Yeah,
the kissing his kid for 13 seconds.
Let's be real. Brady's kind of a nerd. Like
he's a nerd. I feel like Burrow's the same way.
Yeah, he could be that kind of guy. So I don't know. We'll see, but.
It's going to be an interesting
He
match.
seems like, he could be that next guy to take over, and it could be, bringing in the whole wave of young guns now in the AFC for next year. But, I guess we'll get more into the pick next week. But it's looking like a pretty even matchup right now. Offense, defense on both sides certainly got its strengths, and it's looking like a good game.
Should be good. God, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we were both talking about it before we got on. Neither one of us has really thought too much on a score or pick yet, but we're really back and forth. Like, there's really either way you can go about this. I haven't decided which team I even want to win yet. I'm saying I can see both reasons as for why I would cheer for each team and reasons why I wouldn't cheer for the other team. So we'll see come next week. We'll have a more definitive analysis on that game specifically, and then after that we're into the offseason.
The reason I'm so up in the air here is because last week Stafford he blew me away with how he played. I figured he was gonna throw the game away. With his play and how I was wrong about it. And I'll come out and say that I was wrong.
And that drop pick to really change it. Had he caught that, you'd probably say that, he threw the game away again.
Yes.
Right? So, I
forgot about that.
10 minutes left, and I think they were still up 10 at that point.
Yep.
And, he makes that catch. Who knows? Runs it back 10, 15 yards at least. They're almost in field goal range already, It would be a completely different narrative on him than what it could be in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So, I don't know. Should be a great game. A lot on the line for both. We'll see. But that's I guess that's all we'll do for this weekend.
Yeah, like I said, you don't want to get too much into the game.
Yeah.
Leave a lot of stuff there for next week.
Yeah, well, next week is primarily going to be, like I said, the Super Bowl preview. We'll
probably won't have a hell of a lot to talk about, but
no, we'll get into both sides of the ball, offense versus defense, and vice versa, going the other way. But we'll see. Hopefully, we'll have some more news topics to talk about too, and some more, just the coaching stuff going. There's always something going on in NFL. But yeah, next week, like I said, we'll do pick.
Yeah, that's right. I think we could get into maybe some notable players we think are going to have big games, or defensive players versus offensive players, or so on, right?
Yeah.
But I guess that's it for this episode.
Yeah, we'll call it for this week. But we'll be back next week to preview the Super Bowl, man. Who knows? We're here already.
What do we call this one? The Pro Bowl preview?
The Pro Bowl preview.
Yeah. Nobody watches that crap.
No, we haven't even touched on it. I don't know. Like I read somewhere earlier today that they do that after the Super Bowl now, just to avoid injuries and stuff. I have no idea.
God damn.
I'm not watching.
I was hoping to watch Mac Jones.
I'm not watching it anyways. Like you said, we were talking about the other day how they do all the weird skill challenges and stuff. I'll watch that.
Yeah, that's pretty quirky, that's cool shit. Right?
That's funny stuff to watch. Yeah, no, we'll probably watch that, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, that's it for us here on the NFL Roundup Podcast. Hope you enjoyed. Take her easy.
Peace out.